So I broke out my bunny ears. Um, um, this isn't my hero video, as obviously by the my hero shirt and my hero shirt and the All Might shirt and everything behind me. This is going to be a my hero video, but the ears would lead you to believe this is going to be about Mirko. Eventually, I will do a Mirko video. That might be saved for like next Easter or something like that. We'll see, but I will do a Mirko video. No, I have the bunny ears because, we know that All Might's hair kind of is a little bit like, bunny ears to a degree. And, again, Izuku's suit, his costume, his, hood has, like, the bunny ears on it. So I have the bunny ears for a minute, but they're going to come off now because they make it a little harder to stay in camera range. So you can see the bunny ears. I actually pulled out one of my new shirts from my Nebraska trip, a We Can Do It shirt. Rosie the Riveter shirt. Fun fact, my grandmother on my mother's side was a Rosie the Riveter. Yeah, she built, helped build like the ships and the planes and stuff like that that would then go on and be used in the different theaters and such like that. And on top of that, my grandfather on my mom's side as well was in World War II in the Pacific Theater. He wasn't in Japan or anything like that, but he was in the Pacific Theater. And I might talk a little bit about those on another time, but this video is going to be about All Might. And I finally am getting back to my, like the 10 good to the 1 bad type of series that I kind of wanted to do. Kind of based on like what we have Death Arms say. What he says in regards to, like all these comments come flooding in and I thought I could handle it and everything, when we see him like stripping off his costume and everything. This video is going to be kind of a little bit of like a quick summary of like a lot of the good and a lot of the bad that All Might has gone throughout his life. It might get broken into 2 videos. I haven't quite made that decision. It depends on how long it takes me to get through this. But we'll see. I just kind of wanted to, say here at the top that I am going to end up doing some other videos, of course, in this series. I did the teachers one already. This is going to be All Might. I am going to do one about like Izuku at some point. I am going to do one about, and then I will go through some of the other members of Class 1A as well. Ito will probably get his own video. Katsuki might get his own, probably will get his own video. What am I saying? Might. Definitely will. Sue and Urarako will probably get their own videos. Some of the major members of Class 1A. And then I'll do some more like, collection videos in regards to like, like I might put Mina and Kirishima together in a video, partially because I do ship them, but also because like their stories kind of interconnect with each other a fair amount. And I do kind of want to do, just some of the other members of Class 1A, some of them of 1B for like, what they've gone through for like the good and the bad so far that we've seen. And then also I did the teachers one, obviously, so All Might gets his own one, even though I already did UA staff. But then I also plan on doing some ones about, some of the other miscellaneous heroes, along with some of the other civilians. Like, even Izuku's mom has gone through a lot so far. And, Eri and stuff like that, along with some of the other miscellaneous students like Mirio and Amajiki and such like that. So I do want to do ones on them, but this one's going to be about All Might. So let's start from the beginning with All Might. Since we don't actually know any specific like dates as in like the year that it is and stuff like that in My Hero Academia, because, Horikoshi has not stated it's this many years into the future that this happens, that like the first quirks appear and then like, this is how many years later it is and everything. We don't know exactly what, exactly where in everything it lies. But we have Toshinori. We are introduced to Toshinori Yagi. We find out through his backstory, through stuff that he tells Izuku or that Izuku learns from other people, that Toshinori was born quirkless during a time in the world where like evil ran rampant, thanks to, All for One. And Toshinori wanted to become this symbol, symbol of peace, symbol of justice, symbol of, something to keep, the villains at bay. And, when he was a teenager, he met the pro hero Nana Shimura. We don't actually know her pro hero name at this point in time. She may not have had one. We don't know. But he meets her, and something in him makes her realize that he's the one that should get this quirk next, that should have, one for all next. And so she trains him, and Gran Torino helps train Toshinori. And Toshinori is just like this prodigal in regards to the quirk. The quirk has had, Toshinori is, I think, the 8th user of it. No, it doesn't matter. Toshinori is whatever the number is for this user. I want to say 8th user. I could be wrong on that. If I got that wrong on my math, I apologize. But he learns from Nana, and he learns from Gran Torino, and he goes to UA, and he trains at UA. And then right before his last year at UA is when this huge battle happens between Toshinori and Nana, and Gran Torino face off against All For One. And, Nana sacrifices herself, and, she orders Gran Torino to get Toshinori out of there. Well, she sacrifices herself in order to give them time to escape. And he has to watch as his master, as this woman who is the closest thing to a mom that he has, because Toshinori is stated to be an orphan, whether or not he's an orphan because he's quirkless, or whether or not he's an orphan just because, like, maybe his parents were killed by villains at some point. We don't know. That's not a big part of the story at this point in time. That might be something that gets explained later, but it's not an issue at this point in time. And, he has to watch as Nana is, captured and or killed by All For One. As I stated in the Shimura family video that I did a while ago, Nana is most assuredly dead at this point in time, just given, how old she was at that time, plus, how many years it's been since then, within reason, plus the fact that, Shigaraki has her hands. Nana is most definitely dead. Either killed by All For One, or, died of her injuries, whatever the case may be, after, like, he maybe had fun torturing her, and then, like, preserved her as a way to, like, taunt Toshinori later on down the line. And then Toshinori and Gran Torino then spend, Toshinori's last year at UA training Toshinori's butt off to get him stronger and stronger and stronger, because Gran Torino doesn't want to see the same thing that just happened to his best friend happen to their student. And, Toshinori has to get, Gran Torino basically has to, like, beat into Toshinori's head that, get past his stubbornness. It was like, you can't keep dwelling on the past. You can't keep dwelling on the fact that Nana is gone. And yes, she's gone, and it hurts, and nothing is going to change that. But you have to keep going forwards. You have to keep going further and further. You have to keep training and getting stronger and everything. And, because he's the one that's going to carry this power into the next generation, she had this faith in him to keep going. And, we do see that with All Might, and he then, he trains himself up more. He wins the sports festival at whatever points in time. He trains and trains and trains. And then, he graduates, and then he goes off to America. And he's going to study there for a while, which is where he meets David Shield. And then, we get a bunch of stuff that's like at the beginning of the Two Heroes movie. I like the Two Heroes movie. Wait, no. Is that one Heroes Rising? Which one is it? I don't remember. The first one, I was about to say the first One Piece movie. That's very wrong. The first My Hero movie. I don't remember if that's Heroes Rising or Two Heroes. I think it's Two Heroes is that one, and then Heroes Rising is the second one, and then the third one is like the secret mission one that looks kind of cool. Scratch that, it looks very cool. So they're just getting trained and he goes off and he goes to America and he meets them and everything, and he becomes better and better, and this is where he kind of starts his hero career. And then eventually he goes back to Japan, and then for the next kind of 40 years to a degree, from kind of what we've determined, his young age, his bronze age, his silver age, and then his golden age and everything. He just builds himself up more and more as this amazing hero. And throughout the whole time that he's you know, being this hero and everything, yeah, he's got David as his friend, and then he's got, you know, Gran Torino that he can always go and talk to. He also has Night Eye at one point. Night Eye comes along, and he's just like, okay, I'm basically just gonna be your assistant, your sidekick, whatever the case may be. And great, you know, All Might has only had two sidekicks, David Shield, and then now Night Eye. And you know, so Night Eye, you know, he basically just acts as like All Might's secretary, but he does know how to fight himself. We do see that later on when we interact with Night Eye. When Izuku interacts with Night Eye is very much able to fight and defend himself. But for the most part, he acts as like Toshinori's secretary, which is just funny. Because I have read Vigilantes, and I like when we get this like flashback within kind of the manga that already takes place in the past, and we see this moment where it's just like all like I think it's taking place, I don't remember exactly when it's taking place. I think it's taking place during the Underground Masquerade, I think is what it was referred to as, where we see you know, All Might, you know, like it's like Duster Knuckle Duster, and you know, Mirko and some of these other ones that are, you know, fighting in this underground ring and trying to take down these villains and everything, and then like All Might shows up at whatever point in time, and like, you know, Night Eye was just basically acting as his like secretary or whatever the case may be, and you know, so we get to see some of that dynamic there. But then we cut ahead, and we do get to see this in through the course of a little bit in the Vigilantes manga, because we get to see it where Toshinori meets the cop that ends up becoming his friend. And again, kind of has to pretend to be kind of, you know, All Might's secretary to a degree, but All Might also pretends to be his own secretary. So I just find that hilarious. So that's just funny in and of itself. And, you know, so All Might, you know, in that time frame is also, because during the Vigilantes manga, part of that does line up with like when Toshinori had this huge battle with One for All, or with excuse me, with All for One. I know I'm not the only one that does that mix up all the time, but you know, and within that time frame is when he had that battle, and he has this huge battle with One for All. Why do I keep doing that? All for One, whatever. With, you know, All for One, and, you know, the media knows nothing of it. Gran Torino knows about it, because I'm assuming Gran Torino was there. Night Eye may have been there as well, trying to fight down this evil monster and everything that's been causing problems for Japan since, you know, whatever the heck Quarks began to 100 years ago or whatever. And All Might, you know, does so much damage to him, but he also takes so much damage in the process that he just, you know, All Might, you know, starts getting weaker. He has so many internal injuries. You know, his, you know, half of his stomach gets ripped out, part of his lungs get taken out, so many other things happen. And, you know, he thinks he killed One for All for One. Thinks he killed All for One. Why do I do that? He didn't, unfortunately, but All Might almost dies, and that's stated that he almost dies. And then we get these moments when we get the flashbacks later on between All Might and Izuku, when All Might is explaining why him and Sir Night Eye don't get along anymore. And it's Night Eye was trying to convince Toshinori that he just needs to stop. He just needs to retire. He needs to not do this anymore. He needs to just, you know, back off, and he needs to just find a successor now so he can have time to train him and make sure that whoever the successor is has enough training and is ready to take on the quirk when it's time. All Might kind of can't bring himself to do that. And it's just more, you know, he spends the next, you know, this is when, you know, All Might and Night Eye, when this rift between them starts. They were so amazing together, and then now this is where this rift starts to pull them apart. And, you know, we saw, I mentioned this in the UA staff video, that, you know, Recovery Girl was there, and she was doing everything she could to help All Might, to heal him and everything, but there's only so much that her quirk can do. And, you know, All Might had, you know, however many surgeries, I think it was like 70 some surgeries over the course of like the next 5 years. And like even within that short time frame, so many different surgeries to try to fix different things and everything, because I'm sure he would keep getting like different internal bleeding every time he tried to like do different fights and everything, and he still has to keep up this image of All Might and everything, but he can't. And eventually then he does run into Izuku. He comes across this kid, this scrawny little quirkless kid that, jumps onto All Might when he's trying to fly, when he's trying to jump away, and All Might and Izuku just like jumps on him and like hangs on for dear life. And, All Might told this kid, this, because Izuku asked, can someone who's quirkless become a hero? And All Might just goes, no. All Might goes, no. He says no. And that kind of breaks Izuku to a degree. And then, then All Might then, shifts into a skinny form. Not willingly, he was trying to get away from Izuku so Izuku wouldn't see this happen, but he, changes into his, emaciated form, his weak form, whatever form you want to call it. And Izuku's just like, who are you and where did All Might go? And that, because up to this point, in regards to his public image, there's very few people that know about him having, that he has this buff form and then he has the skinny form that he mostly stays in because he can only stay in the buff form for so long. And with Toshinori, it's, Nezu knows about it. At this point in time, Nezu at least knows, Recovery Girl knows, Gran Torino knows, the cop guy knows, and I can never remember his name with the lie detector quirk. And, I'm sure there's a few other people that know, but they've all been like probably like sworn to secrecy inside, NDAs, up, out their backside to prevent them from going and like blabbing to the world what's going on, with All Might and everything. And, Night Eye knows and everything too. And, Izuku, All Might just looks at Izuku and, there's this kid that just had such adoration for him, and then he's just like, who are you and where did All Might go? You're not the real All Might. And I'm pretty sure that like stung. Like he's just like, ugh, that hurt. And, so Izuku and All Might then have this big conversation, and All Might explains, I had this battle 5 years ago, and, it cost me something horrible. It cost me, so much of my health, and now I can only be a hero for so many hours a day, and, all this other stuff. And he still tells Izuku, no, you can't be a hero without a quirk. And part of my reasoning or my logic behind why All Might did that is because he, we find out later that he at one point was quirkless, and when he was a kid, and he, saw what Nana could do and what Gran Torino would do. And, yeah, there's different heroes that have like different ways of using their quirks. Like, physically, Aizawa and Izuku aren't necessarily that different in regards to like the way Izuku is before he, gets his quirk. Even after he's done with all of his physical training, if you take the quirk out of it, Izuku and Aizawa probably aren't super different in regards to how strong they are. But Aizawa does have his quirk, and he can, nullify someone else's, quirk and such like that with his erasure. With Izuku, and yeah, I know there's so many fanfics out there about, it's like, oh, Izuku goes off and he like becomes a vigilante, or he goes and he joins the support course and like he uses all of his notes for, heroing and everything like that, and he uses that to be able to make support devices and, different things like that, and becomes like this analyst and everything, and he's able to use his, his intellect and everything that way. And those are fine. Izuku would be an amazing one doing any of that stuff. But the story is, I think All Might's telling Izuku this because he doesn't want to see this quirkless little kid get hurt. And then we cut to, half an hour later or whatever, that, Katsuki is being attacked by the sludge villain, and Izuku rushes in, barely thinking, and, is trying to dig Katsuki out of the slime, out of the sludge, and then, All Might just like is like, if this little kid, this quirkless little kid, can run to this battle, what is stopping me from doing it? That's when, when he runs in and he does Detroit Smash or whatever at this point in time, and knocks away blows away the sludge villain and changes the weather and saves Izuku and Katsuki. And, and then he goes to Izuku and he's like, okay, here's the thing. This is what my quirk is. It's this quirk that's passed down from one generation to the next, making it stronger and stronger each time. I want to give that quirk to you. And, we get the whole story, you too can be a hero type thing. And Izuku, and I'll be going over this when I go over Izuku, of course, as well, because it's just like this moment where it's just like, I can be a hero? And yeah, there's some stories where like Izuku turns All Might down and doesn't take it and is like, I'm just going to prove that I can become a hero on my own without a quirk. And that's fine too. But again, that's not the story that, Horikoshi is telling in this case. And I've read fanfics where Izuku doesn't take the quirk, where he says no, even after All Might offers it to him, or where All Might still doesn't offer it to him because like Izuku doesn't end up having to deal with the sludge villain because whatever reason the sludge villain was already apprehended or whatever the case may be. But All Might then spends the next, 10 months, whatever, year, whatever it is, training Izuku. Physically training him, getting him to clean up the beach, motivating him, giving him, advice and doing the diet plan and the exercise plan and all this stuff to help Izuku get stronger. And Izuku does. And All Might is extremely proud of Izuku throughout the entire process. He starts off as this like wimpy little kid. And then by the end of the training, by the end of that, his preparation and everything, and he's gained muscle, he's gotten stronger, he's gained confidence to a degree. And All Might, has watched Izuku even grow in that short amount of time. And I'm sure that Izuku and All Might have like sat and had other conversations and such like that, either in Toshinori's truck while they're talking or sitting on the beach and talking, while Izuku's taking a break from, cleaning up the beach. And I'm sure they had some like Izuku probably just like sitting there and asking him questions about like different battles that he's been in and everything like that. But then also, also going like, oh, well, how does this work? Or how do you do this? Or when how did you come up with this? Or, just like some other things. I highly doubt Toshinori at this point in time has been super forthcoming with a lot of his past. Because even at this point, Izuku has not learned that All Might had been quirkless. He doesn't learn that until much later on. And then, of course, we get to the entrance exams. And then we have the weird moment where it's All Might, eat this! And All Might watches as Izuku does the entrance exam, because he's in the booth when they're, going through that, when the teachers are watching. And then what happens is, of course, All Might is probably, when he gets to record the video to send to Izuku about going, you have been accepted into UA High School and everything, and sends that to, gets to record that for Izuku. I mean, he records it for the other students as well, of course, but when he's recording it specifically for Izuku, we get this moment, and I can assure you that, like, All Might is just, like, so proud, so bubbling with, admiration and joy and pride in Izuku at this point in time. And he's just like this little kid that I saw that, was attacked by the sludge villain and then, jumped on me and then, attacked the sludge villain back to save his friend. And Katsuki and Izuku's relationship is going to get their own damn video, particularly with what happened in some of the more recent chapters for My Hero. They're going to get their own dang video for their friendship. But Izuku, All Might is just so proud of Izuku. And, of course he wants Izuku to keep going and become the next #1 hero, become the next symbol of peace and everything. But even to this, he's so proud of him. And then, of course, we go through, the first arc, which is, Izuku has to do the training test and everything. And then we get to the USJ. And we have All Might showing up at the USJ, and he's already kind of, worn down, and he has to fight his way through these different criminals and these villains, and then he has to go up against the Nomu and Kurogiri and Shigaraki. And we watch this battle, and it is hard to watch because, he keeps punching the Nomu and nothing works because of its, force, nullification or whatever it is that it has. And he, then he eventually just has to like up it to like, 1000% or 600 punches or whatever the case may be in order to take down the Nomu. And it costs him, he uses so much of his power up that it just makes him have to, he makes it that he can't be in his, big form very often as long anymore. And, so we see, and that was All Might protecting his students. It's like when he gets there when he, because he ran into Ida on the way there, because he was supposed to be there in the first place, and he runs into Ida, and Ida explains, well, there was these villains that attacked and everything like that, and they're inside of the USJ, nobody else can get out, and I managed to get out because 13 told me to, and now I'm going to the school to get all the other teachers, and blah, 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 and that's fine. Ida did what he was supposed to do. Ida's going to get his own dang video in regards to the 10 good, 1 bad. Nothing wrong with that. Mostly because of his brother and Stain, but still. But, All Might rushes there, and he's barely known these students for, I don't even remember if they state exactly how long it's been. Possibly just a couple of weeks is what he's known these students. And, he's known Izuku for, a year at this point in time. And, it's this, I equate it kind of to like a mother bear, like with her cubs, or like a mother lion with her cubs. And it's just like this, this parent protecting their children type of a thing is where I put that. For, Toshinori showing up and like beating the crap out of the Nomu, and then, trying to get Tomura and trying to get Kurogiri. And then of course we have the sports festival arc. All Might isn't like, it's not like there's like a huge battle that All Might has to deal with the sports festival or anything like that. It's more his making sure that Izuku is ready to like proclaim himself, show himself off, show what he can do and everything. And I do think it's a little early in that case for All Might trying to expect Izuku to do this. For All Might trying to expect Izuku to be able to declare to the world, I am here and everything. I think that's a bit much to expect of this kid that hasn't even had this quirk for like 2-3 months or whatever it is at this point in time. And, but Izuku, Toshinori watches Izuku go through the sports festival, watches him in, the obstacle course race, and watches him through the, the cavalry battle, and then watches him as his first battle against Shinso, and then he, fights against, then he has to fight against Shoto, and of course he loses against Shoto. But All Might is very proud of Izuku, and I love that whenever the frick Izuku gets hurt, that I love the fact that like Recovery Girl just like scolds All Might, like, stop trying to make this kid do stuff that he's not ready to do. Will you stop this, Toshinori? Please stop this. Like, just like scolding him like a mother scolds their child. I just find that hilarious. And I think one of the highlights that also All Might sees for like a good thing for him is when he sees how much Izuku's friends care about him. Because Ida and Araka and Sue and even Mineta like come and visit Izuku when he's in like the hospital bed and everything like that, in the nurse's office, during the sports festival after his battle with Shoto. And like they come and visit him, and I think that just makes him kind of happy that it's just like, okay, yeah, Izuku's doing good. He's gaining friends. And then of course we have like the medal ceremony where Katsuki's just like growling at All Might the entire time, which is just funny. And then we cut to the, the Hero Killer Stain arc. And in regards to this, we don't necessarily, All Might isn't super prevalent in this arc. It's, he gives Izuku the recommendation or the selection from Gran Torino, and All Might is just like so shivering in terror in his like big form, like giving this to Izuku. And I assure you, that was intentional, that they made that Horikoshi made sure that All Might was in his big form when he's like here's the selection thing from Gran Torino. Yeah, because like if it was in his skinny form and doing that, yeah, that would still be funny. But the fact that it's just a big buff guy that like is probably like 1.5 times taller than Gran Torino, is still terrified of him. I just find that hilarious. After the battle with Stain, Izuku and All Might end up talking about the fact that, Stain, ingested Izuku's blood. But because of the fact that Izuku was not focused on the concept of giving Stain or giving anyone, all for one for all, I'll do this eventually the right way, one way or the other, giving him that, giving him the quirk, it didn't transfer. And then this is also when Izuku learns about all for one, and that it's not just a quirk, it's also a person. And this is where All Might explains the origins of one for all, of where this power came from, that it had belonged to All for One's brother, and that he had had a power, that the brother had a quirk forced on him, but then found out that he did have a quirk, and the quirks merged, and then they got passed down, and they're kind of immune from All for One trying to take them, because it's a quirk that has to be given away willingly, as opposed to something that can just be taken. And so All Might, this is when All Might tells Izuku about like the horrible battle, and like having watching Nana, and all this stuff, and Izuku kind of does a bit of a I'm gonna keep going, I need to do what I have to do. But then he learns, there's this giant evil force out there that will find a reason to kill him if he gets in his way. And then we have the final exam. Now, in regards to the final exam arc for the first term final exam, Izuku and Katsuki get paired up. And I'll go over their side of this a little bit more when I do like the Izuku Katsuki friendship video that I kind of want to go over, or that I want to do. But in regards to All Might, the way that he's looking at this battle is, it's like, okay, this is my chance to really test to see what Izuku can do, and even what Katsuki can do, because, he's seen, even Katsuki's growth and everything throughout the course of the last several months and everything. And he wants to see if Katsuki, I guess to a degree, has become less of this, angry boy that was growling and sneering and snarling, on top of the, pedestal at the awards ceremony at the end of the sports festival. And All Might wants to see if this boy has grown, but he also wants to see how far Izuku has come. And so he's the one that goes up against them. Whether or not this was just Nezu going, no, you're going to get to fight them because I know that Izuku is your successor and everything. And then is always just like, yeah, we're going to put Bakugo in there too because they need to learn to work out their shit. We have that. But, All Might goes up against the two of them. And, yeah, he's got the cuffs that make him a bit weaker and everything. And Izuku, and All Might's not going to use his full power on them. But it's also, they are first years that barely have finished, that haven't even finished the first half of their year. And All Might is this, hero with all of this experience and all of this power. And yet, he loses, but we get these moments where it's just like him testing them and testing them and testing them, taunting them and seeing what they can do, and then, trying to force them to work together or force them to give up or whatever the case may be. And yeah, in the end, they do pass because the two of them work together. And I think to a degree, it is a little bit like All Might kind of let them pass because, like, every single one of those teachers could have very easily done something horrible to the students to prevent them from being able to escape or get help and, and trap them or whatever the case may be. They could have done, they're heroes going up against students. But the trick in the exam, of course, as Recovery Girl points out, is that every single one of them left an opening for the students to exploit. For, you know, Kota and Jiro, it was them using the bugs against, you know, Present Mic. For Ida and Ojiro, it's, you know, them, you know, getting Ojiro out and everything. Well, Ida's one that stayed trapped inside, but he still passed because him and Ojiro worked together to do that. For, you know, some of the other ones, it's, you know, it's like, you know, for Izawa and for, you know, for Izawa up against, you know, Momo and Shoto, it is to a degree, you know, yeah, he kind of let them capture him because he kind of gave them the opening, but it's also, it's like, it forced them to have to come up with this plan. And it forces them to find these different elements. And then later on, like, maybe, like, their final exam for, like, the year would have been something a lot more, maybe, like, they had to go up against a different teacher, or maybe it was something a bit more, you know, a bit more involved. And, you know, it just didn't happen because, you know, that, you know, we didn't get to see the end of the year exam because there was no end of the year exam because of this freaking war that's going on currently in the manga. But, you know, All Might goes up against, you know, Izuku and Kacchan, and eventually, you know, yeah, they win and they take him out and everything. And then he gets scolded by Recovery Girl again because he caused so much damage to the two boys, which is just funny. And then we have, I just wanted to mention this for the Two Heroes because, for the Two Heroes movie, because I know technically it's not canon, but I kind of want it to be canon, just because I like the idea of, you know, All Might and David have this, like, brother relationship, and then, like, you know, All Might decides to take Izuku to, you know, Island for the expo and everything, and then, you know, Izuku meets Melissa, and Melissa has, you know, like, Melissa's, you know, to All Might is like Uncle Might, and I can assure you, and I know that Melissa and David are canon in the manga. It's just, you know, their interactions with All Might have not exactly been shown in canon yet in regards to, like, the anime, but that's why I want this one to be. This one can work fine for, like, a, you know, just pop it right in at the end of after the exam and everything is, like, where that would fall. But, yeah, that works. But, you know, she's, you know, All Might's Uncle Might to Melissa and has been that since she was a baby. And he adores her, and you can so tell this. And you know, he loves her so much. And, you know, but then we also get to see the relationship that he has with David Shield. And, you know, he's trying to assure David that, yeah, of course, yeah, okay, so I'm losing power and I know this and everything. But we also see by the end of the movie that he's also assured David that, you know, because David sees what Izuku and Melissa were able to do, and, you know, he watches All Might and Izuku do, like, the double Detroit smash, which is one of my favorite moments because it's just, like, it's the only moment in the entire series, even if it's not canon, that we're gonna get to see Izuku and All Might get to do an attack together. And I love that. And I wish that that could be put into the canon in the manga and in the anime. That would be great. Because it's just like this one moment where they both get to do it together. And I love it. But, of course, what ends up happening is, you know, David and All Might get to see, you know, Melissa and Izuku, and, like, they're very, very proud of them, and they get to see that, okay, yeah, no, the next generation is going to be fine. Then, of course, we have the hideout raid arc. Of course, we had the you know, the training camp arc and everything, but All Might's not really involved in the training camp arc until after they get back after they were attacked and everything, and him and the detective are trying to get, you know, information out of Momo and such. But what ends up happening is, you know, he's part of the raid on, you know, the bar and everything to go and, you know, get, you know, to save Katsuki. And, you know, so he does, you know, the pizza delivery when he, like, you know, barges in and everything. And, you know, he's got the other heroes. He's got Ed Shot. He's got all these other heroes there with him to, you know, save, you know, Bakugo. And, you know, and he's there and he's ready to save Bakugo. And then he literally gets that ripped away from him because One for All, or All for One, is a jerk. and a bastard, and he, like, you know, uses that weird black liquid gel slime whatever quirk to like make all of the other, you know, the League of Villains and Kakuzu like vanish, and like they get transported away. And then of course we get the huge battle between All For One and All Might. Yeah. And you know, we get this huge clash. It's, you know, punch after punch after punch after attack after attack after attack on both sides, one after the other after the other. You know, both of them are taking damage, but All Might seems to be taking more damage. And of course, we have, you know, All For One is there, and he's just taunting All Might. And just like, yeah, keep going, keep training, keep punching away at me. You know, there's these other civilians around here, so I know you won't go full out and everything. But, you know, because of the other heroes that are there, they're able to get the rest of the civilians out of the way and everything, which is very nice. And you know, Bakugo is still there, so All Might still doesn't want to go at full strength and everything. And that's, you know, Izuku and his friends show up and they save Bakugo, and you know, get away, and like they're not involved in the fight. They didn't get involved in the fight. They escape and everything. And I want to do a video, and I am going to end up doing this video. I might end up kind of pairing it with this one to a degree. Where I do something where I point out how, like, where you get to see, because throughout the anime for this, and even in the manga, you of course get to see this, you get to see, I think you get to see most of the class's reactions to watching All Might and All For One fight. And because so many of them were at home when it was happening, and they were watching from there, or they were at, you know, the group that went to go save Bakugo, you know, they, you know, watched it on the screens and everything. And I'm going to do a video about that, just like in regards to like each of the students' like reactions that we see in regards to it. But then we also get to see when All Might's true form is revealed to the world on live TV in the middle of this battle, when his emaciated form is revealed, and how he's like, okay, I gotta keep going. I gotta stop him now, because if I don't, then it's just gonna get worse. He's gonna keep getting stronger. He's gonna come back and everything. And he, you know, he fights back more and more, and he, you know, does punch after punch that's even stronger, you know, just like forcing as much power into the punches as he can to take down All For One. And, you know, and then of course All For One does this moment where he's just like, oh yeah, you know, that kid, you know, Tomura and everything, yeah. He's Donna's grandson. Yeah, he's the grandson of the your predecessor, your mentor and everything. He's her grandson, and you're gonna die at his hands, type of a thing. And that just that sparked something inside of All Might, because he's just like, okay. At this point, he's already lost so much power. He's already given the power, you know, transferred, you know, passed the power on to Izuku. And he's just like, okay. And we get this image of like, you know, this like emaciated soul, like just kind of gathering up all of these like last little bits of sparks, these last embers of this quirk. And he, you know, forces all of that power into, you know, one final attack at, you know, All For One. And it's the United States of Smash, and you know, and he takes down All For One, and he knocks him out, he beats him down, and then he gets to stand there in his victory pose, his, you know, symbol of peace, you know, final job, you know, with the fist raised and everything. And he then, then he like passes out and everything, like it's revealed to the world what happened. And then we cut to, I think it's like the next night or whatever, that Izuku and All Might meet on the beach. And, you know, All Might tells Izuku, you know, yeah, I retired and everything. I can't, you know, I don't have any of the power anymore. And then All Might punches Izuku as kind of like you're the idiot that decided to go and try to help your classmate. Not that I blame you for wanting to help your classmate, but that was dangerous and you shouldn't have done that. And then he hugs him. And at this point in time, you can so tell that All Might not just cares about all the students as students, he cares about them. He cares about Izuku at the very least. Hold on. My chair likes to move. He cares about Izuku so much, and he wants Izuku to continue on and, he wants Izuku to be safe, but he also wants him to be happy, but he also knows that Izuku has to carry on this mantle of being this hero, of becoming the next symbol of peace. And, you know, and that's, I mean, All Might is, All Might's going to support him the entire way through whatever Izuku chooses. And we see that here in the beach scene where the two of them talking and everything. And and All Might hugging Izuku, and I love that moment. And then we have it that Baku or All Might and Izawa have to go to the different teacher or the different students' houses and be like, oh, this is we need your parents' permission in order for you to come and live at the dorms. Why UA wasn't set up as a dorm system in the first place, I don't know. I know that like certain like dormitory type schools aren't necessarily extremely common all of the time, but I mean, it's a school where you have a bunch of students training to be heroes, and I would kind of equate it a little bit to Hogwarts. But it's like you have the students that are training to become heroes, so wouldn't it be a wise decision for them to, have to live together so they learn how to work together, because as heroes, they're going to have to learn how to work together, and it makes their bond stronger. Also, it means that, the students are all in one place. But that also kind of does mean like, oh, it's this giant target. So yeah, I kind of see where there's, pros and cons with that. But, they go to the Bakugo household, and, Mitsuki and Masaru are just like, yeah, sure, that's fine. Katsuki can go back to school, that's fine. And then he goes to Izuku's apartment on his own. And, All Might, the two Midoriyas are just like, oh my god, All Might is in our apartment. What the frick is going on? And we get this moment where we have them sitting and talking, and Inko just looks at All Might, and she's just like, I don't know if I can trust the school with my son's well-being and his safety anymore, considering how much he's been hurt already. With his arms, and even before what happened at the training camp, and then the training camp itself, and then what just happened and everything with this huge villain attack and everything. I don't know if I can trust the school with him, with his life anymore. And I'll go over Izuku's side of this a little bit more when I do Izuku's video. But, we have All Might changing into his hero form and then bowing. Like, full-on bow, nose to the floor, knees on the floor, nose to the floor, everything. Bowing to Izuku's mom and begs her to let Izuku continue being a hero. And, he doesn't, he can't stay in the hero form very long, and he shifts back into his, regular form. And Inko, gets down on her hands and knees as well, and she's just, like, watching All Might. And, Izuku, I mean, he put in his 2 cents and everything with, like, telling his mom, it's like, if you don't want me to go back to UA, I'll go to a different school, but I still have to become a hero type of a thing. And, so we get that moment and everything. But All Might just... Inko asks All Might if he can live and protect Izuku, because he says he'll do anything, even sacrifice his own life to protect Izuku. And Inko is just like... Inside Inko's mind, she's probably like, no, because that's not going to be... It's not good enough. It's not like she's thinking that, oh, that's not good enough for him to like sacrifice his life to protect my son. It's Inko is just like, you dying is not going to keep my son safe. You being alive and being able to train him and protect him and support him is going to keep him safe and going to keep him going and, keep my son from, dying type of a thing. And, so we have that moment. And Izuku, she signs the permission slips, and then out, when All Might and Izuku are talking outside when he's leaving, All Might is just like, he compliments Izuku's mother, of course, and telling Izuku that, she reminds me of my master, of Nana. And, and Izuku is just like, oh, okay. And yeah, I've read the fanfics where like Inko and All Might end up together, either where he is Izuku's father, or where like they get together later on, or like he's his stepfather, regardless of whether or not there's quirks or whatever. And there's like a whole bunch of stuff that goes on with that. And I mean, like, I don't think that Horikoshi is gonna do this, where he puts, like, um, Inko and All Might, like, puts them into an actual relationship. I highly doubt he's going to do that. But if he did, I would be one of the people who was like, that's fine by me. I'm okay with that. But and then when they're at school and they're training for the provisional license exam and they're working on their super moves and everything like that, All Might comes in and the students don't see it, but Izawa sees that All Might has this, even dummies can be teachers, easy education theory. Which just makes me laugh because it's like I've seen some of the for dummies, computers for dummies, taxes for dummies, you know I'm sure there's a book about YouTube for dummies, in all honesty. um this is a video, this is a YouTube screen, this is how views work. um but what ends up happening is, he's giving all the students all this different advice and everything. And one of the things that he helps Izuku kind of figure out is that, like, he has to develop his own style. And he's so proud when he sees Izuku use his shoot style for the first time. Saves All Might from, like, some falling cement and everything, but saves him. And then, of course, we have that All Might just, like, grumbles when, like, Katsuki has to save him, too. And he's just like, he's like perturbed about the fact that he's just like, okay, fine, now I'm the one that has to be protected and everything. Which, I mean, like, he's spent the last 40 years that he's been a hero, having this power and being the one that's used to protecting everybody else. And now he's the one that's this that has to be protected because he's retired now. And yeah, he's still a teacher and he still has all of his experience and everything, but and then, of course, when the kids are off having their, provisional license exam, All Might goes and he has a big, he talks with All For One. And, that's probably one of those moments where All Might's just like, okay, I gotta go and talk to the guy that has caused me so many problems. This is gonna be a fun day. But, they he goes and he talks with him, and this is when when he gets more explanation about who Tomura is, that he's Tenko Shimura, that he's Nana's grandson and everything. And he ends up he tells all for one tells him you're gonna die at Tomura's hands, and Toshinori is like, no, I am not. And there's this great image, and I think I'm pretty sure they show it in the manga, but they show it in the anime where All Might and All For One are staring at each other through the glass, and where their images overlap. And because it shows, I mean, in some of the fanfics I've read, All Might becomes a villain because Hero Society is so corrupt that All Might became a villain instead, or where he was a villain in the first place, or whatever the case may be. And for all we know, if things had gone differently in regards to All Might's life, in regards to Toshinori's life, if he had been found by All For One instead of Nana, would All For One have been able to mold him into something else, mold Toshinori into a villain, give him quirks and make him a villain? Because there's so many fanfics out there where All For One does that to Izuku. But of course, All Might and the others, they keep going, and then All Might gets a text from Izuku that is, sends him a picture, and he's like, thanks, All Might. I was able to take another step towards, a step forward and everything. And he's just like so happy about it. And All Might is just like so happy for Izuku. I love their relationship. It is kind of father-son, but they do get the teacher-student, mentor-mentee relationship in there as well. And they, Horikoshi does a great job writing it. And then, of course, we have that night where All Might watches the battle between Izuku and Katsuki. And then he has to, and then he tells Katsuki, okay, here's the thing. I had a quirk. I gave it to Izuku because Katsuki, and this is probably a fairly low moment for All Might anyway, because he watches Katsuki go, what happened to you is my fault because I got captured and because I was weak. And now you're forced to be this skinny thing again, the skinny thing that can't protect itself, and now the world's in chaos and everything. I was like, just give it time. It's gonna get worse, kid. But Izuku, All Might, Toshinori tells Katsuki, it's not your fault. I was going down this path long before I met you, long before any of this happened. This was an inevitability that I would get to this point at some point. It's just I have Izuku and he's my successor. And I think also Katsuki is like, well, why didn't you pick me to be your successor? Admittedly, you didn't spend that much time around All Might. So he saw Izuku and he saw what Izuku could do. In some fanfics, I think Katsuki does become the successor instead of Izuku because of other reasons. I don't remember. But, and like, of course, there's other ones where like Mirio is the one that becomes the successor, of course. With things we've learned in the past, at the end of the last arc, at the end of the Paranormal Liberation War arc, him giving Katsuki or Mirio the quirk would have been a very bad idea because they would have probably died very quickly. But like, so he helps calm them down and everything, and he tells them, okay, here's what you're gonna have to do. You have to, rescue and win. Save people to win, win to save people. The two of you have to, you can be rivals all you want, but you also have to be partners. You and the rest of your class, you're gonna have to do all this together. And that's actually where I'm going to end this video because it's almost an hour long. And the next section, or the next half, the other half of the video, the second part of this will be about like from the Shihi Hasaikai, the Yakuza arc, all the way to where we are currently in the manga, which it's going to be like chapter 223 or 224 or whatever the case is by the time I get to the other half of this one. So this is what we have for this one. So, All Might has gone through a lot of ups and downs throughout all of his life. Obviously, I didn't cover everything that we see in like Vigilantes, but there's moments that happen in Vigilantes that we get to see, of course. Him interacting with other heroes and everything like that. I kind of want All Might to meet Koichi. I kind of want that. I don't know if that'll happen, but I want that to happen. That they end up meeting and like he kind of like is like proud of Koichi or whatever. He went on to become a hero. So, yeah, at this point, All Might has been through hell and back, and it ain't even funny anymore with as much as he's gone through. So, he's also got a whole lot of other stuff he's going to have to go through. So, he's going to lose some friends, he's going to lose some colleagues, and he's going to, see one of his students run away from him at some point. So, that's what I got for this. So, not exactly the most happy video, but it kind of worked for what I wanted to talk about for this. And this isn't a quote that comes from, My Hero or anything. It is a Doctor Who quote. It's, from Vincent and the Doctor, a Doctor Who fan here, noted by the TARDIS over in the corner, or the fact that I've mentioned it before. But, All Might, or the Doctor says, life is a pile of good things and bad. That, the bad things don't always outweigh the good, and the good don't soften the bad. But, All Might has, with as many people as All Might saved over the years, the children that he saved, the people that he saved, the adults that he saved, even like the animals that he saved in regards to like, oh my kitten's in a tree, can you save it? Yes, little old lady, I will save your cat. And like, saves the cat and everything. And, or like whatever else, all the people that he saved, that's all good. But then there's also, he watched Nana die, or lost Nana, and now he knows that, Tenko, that, Tomura is, Nana's grandson, and, he's going to have to figure out, okay, can I save this boy? because he's this last thing that could be left of Nana. Can I save him? And then, of course, we have like all this other stuff that goes through in regards to, you know, everything that he's seen with Izuku getting stronger and stronger, and the rest of Izuku's classmates getting stronger. You know, he's seen a lot so far, but he's seen a lot of good and he's seen a lot of bad. Yeah, that's what I have for this for All Might. For first half of All Might. So I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. When there's nothing to be gained, rising to the challenge at those times is surely the mark of a true hero.